Executions in Iran could reach over 1,000 this year, according to Amnesty International. The human rights charity says that nearly 700 people have been put to death in Iran during the last 6 months alone, almost as many executions as the whole of 2014. Official Iranian figures say that 246 people have faced capital punishment so far this year. However, according to credible reports compiled by Amnesty International, the actual number of executions is closer to 694. According to the report, the number of state-sanctioned deaths in Iran could reach over 1,000 people by the end of the year if the government continues at this rate. Several thousand people are believed to be on death row in Iran. However, authorities refuse to release exact figures.
Joining me to discuss that final story, Iran researcher from Amnesty International, Raha Bahraini. Raha, welcome to the programme. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we know it's often very difficult to obtain data from Iran. Can you tell us how difficult it was to obtain what you did have and what exactly is in this report?
Well, each year the Iranian authorities acknowledge a number of executions that take place in the country. They don't acknowledge it in a systematic way on a government ministry website. Rather, the authorities just make statements in different state-associated media sites. However, independent human rights defenders and human rights journalists document other executions that take place in prisons, and we collate these numbers and cross-check them between different sources and present this figure, which we believe is a minimum figure. Executions are likely to be much higher in their numbers in the country because inevitably there are executions that are just missing in the reporting. There is, however, a serious transparency issue here. The Iranian authorities are increasingly denying the number of executions that take place, and this is something that we hope with our advocacy they will change.
What do we know about some of these executions that have taken place from the prisoners who were involved?
So according to the authorities' statements, 80% of these executions are for drug-related offenses, and this makes this horrifying figure even more disturbing because drug-related offenses must not attract the death penalty under international law because they are not crimes that involve intentional killing. Moreover, the Iranian authorities have for years relied on this cruel and inhumane punishment to address Iran's immense drug problem. There is, however, no shred of evidence showing that this is an effective punishment in deterring crime. On the contrary, it has meant that hundreds of people have lost their lives or have been killed by the state. When they come from disadvantaged backgrounds, their cases are not publicized, and the authorities must not choose the death penalty as a way of addressing this social ill.
Do we know if any particular religious or political groups are unfairly targeted in these executions?
So among the people who have been executed, there are cases of individuals belonging to Iran's ethnic and religious minorities, including Kurdish political prisoners and men accused of association with extremist Sunni groups. In Iran, death penalty is imposed for a wide range of offenses, and among them is enmity against God and corruption on earth, which tends to be disproportionately used against ethnic and religious minorities.
In light of the recent nuclear deal, do you think we'll be having any more transparency over some of these issues? Do you think there'll be any difference that will happen as a result of that?
Unfortunately, as we speak, there is no end in sight for this horrifying situation. As your reporter mentioned, there are thousands of people languishing on death row every day, not knowing whether this will be their last day. In order to see any effective change, we must first of all see a change to Iran's anti-narcotics law that allows for mandatory death sentences for carrying as little as 30 grams of heroin. In addition to that, we need the judicial system to undergo a significant overhaul because many of these executions are carried out following grossly unfair trials where individuals were denied access to their lawyer at the investigative stage, and they did not have access to fair and adequate appeal, pardon, and commutation procedures.
What we're seeing must cast a dark shadow over Iran in terms of its relations with other countries. They're of course not being completely transparent, but how does that affect their relationship with other nations?
Iran is definitely an outlier when it comes to the issue of the death penalty, and it must be held to account for this horrifying execution rate. We expect the international community to pressure Iran to uphold these international commitments, and this can happen through different venues. It can happen through the renewal of the mandate of the Special Rapporteur through the United Nations Human Rights Council, as well with the formation of a historic nuclear deal. There will be many businesses and parliamentary and state delegations traveling to Iran, and we expect and hope that they will raise Iran's appalling human rights record, as well as this issue of the death penalty in their bilateral communications with Iran, as well as through other appropriate diplomatic channels.
Raha Bahraini, thank you very much for joining us.